The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning. This is Jeff here at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. I have 11 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with today's Monday briefing here for March 30th. Fairly unsettled week, but not going to be too bad. So we'll kind of get into it here and talk about some of the highlights. Just kind of going through some of the bullets points for today. We'll talk about just a little bit of an increased fire danger over Northeast North Carolina. And we'll talk about why that is. It's just for a very small area, but really it's going to be a pretty warm week overall. Temperatures generally in the 70s and 80s. A little bit of unsettled weather with a few rain chances here and there. And on the marine, same thing with because it's unsettled. We'll have some small craft advisory conditions off and on here for a few days. I'm kind of going to go ahead and show what's happening right now. There's been a bit more, I guess, I'll say light rain activity than what was originally anticipated, but a lot of this is not reaching the ground. But this is the current radar, kind of showing some showers that were over here over eastern West Virginia this morning, and they're kind of hitting the mountains, starting to make their way a little bit east of the mountains, and we've had some showers come out of northern Virginia, starting to make their way down through St. Mary's and kind of get over here towards Maryland Eastern Shore. The trend has been for the stuff to kind of weaken and diminish as it's moved east. I'll kind of just put this in motion here so you just at least see what direction these things are moving. A lot of stations have not been reporting any rainfall, or if it has been any rainfall, it's just been a trace to a hundredth of an inch. So this is not like it's a soaking rain for us. So even Salisbury, I looked over there and I think they reported a trace. I'm not even sure they even reported a hundredth of an inch. Ocean City might get a little light rain over there, but it's not gonna last long. So it's not like it's going to be an appreciable, measurable rainfall here. And the trend is, as this stuff continues to kind of push east, I think you're going to see kind of a weakening trend there as it goes. And in fact, if I go ahead and throw in the HRRR, just one of the high res models, and I checked a few of them, and this kind of been the trend. And this may be, dissipating the rain too fast, but this is, the initial conditions here. And as it moves ahead in time, they really see how it starts to try to shrink that precipitation, even though it hangs on to a few showers. They make their way into central Virginia here. This would be around noon today, but it continues to dissipate as it pushes south and east. So, kind of hitting that drier air, kind of hitting the edge of the high pressure. Doesn't look like it's going to continue should shrink in coverage and probably in intensity. So again, most folks, I don't think you're going to see any rain. Some spots may get a trace as that stuff comes in, especially across central Virginia and maybe parts of the Maryland Eastern Shore. But the trend really is to weaken the system as it pushes east. Like I said, this may be weakening a little too quickly, but that's definitely been the trend. And that's what we've seen on the radar here for the last few hours, is that the area of rainfall has shrunk, and you're not seeing really much of it reaching the ground. So kind of looking at the week ahead, we'll kind of just step through the weather maps here. Really was kind of blow it up here. Really for today, this is this afternoon. High pressure is really offshore. I'm kind of ridging back towards the mid-Atlantic here. A weak little disturbance kind of moving across. That's why you have in the upper levels, we have a little bit of shower activity. I'm out here to the west that's dissipating. But this high pressure really is kind of in control. That's why we have the warmer southwest winds. And that's really the way it's going to be here for a while. This is the weather pattern, come Tuesday morning. Tomorrow morning, and you don't see much of a change. You still see this high pressure kind of sitting off the coast, kind of dominating here in the mid-Atlantic, and really keeping all the weather way to the north, kind of stalling out that front there over the Great Lakes in New York. So really, we just kind of stay in this southwest flow. Maybe a few little isolated showers here or there on Wednesday morning. Again, you notice we still have the high pressure in control Wednesday morning, but you do see that cold front now starting to push south, to our west. You have another high pressure coming down the Great Lakes. It's got some decent push with it, and it's going to try to push that cold front, further and further south towards us. And then this front should start to reach the Commonwealth later in the day. And so you'll start to see some of this chances of precipitation here really late Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening as this front approaches. And the front does kind of get through here by Thursday. You see it actually makes it through and then stalls out and then goes back to the north by Thursday morning. So while the front has a little bit of a push here initially, it's going to sneak in here Wednesday night. And then all of a sudden it's going to kind of go back to the north as a warm front by Thursday morning. So our temperatures really don't drop a whole lot with this thing. We just see increasing chances of rain really Wednesday night. And by Thursday morning, the chances really shouldn't be that much. Friday, kind of similar. Again, you kind of have a high pressure, to the east and maybe a few little, isolated showers coming through with the warm, moist air. You get into Saturday. Again, it's just kind of rinse, load, repeat here for several days where we stay a little bit unsettled with that southerly flow, but really not really all that wet. Come Sunday, this is where another front does try to come through here, and this is obviously a stronger cold front coming through the region, and so we could see a few little widely scattered showers there on Sunday. I'd say Sunday morning, but the better chance does look like it's going to be more like Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening when that front comes through. So Sunday morning, the front's maybe in the far western part of Virginia, coming across West Virginia, but it'll start pushing into central Virginia, I'd say by about mid-afternoon or so. And with that, I think we'll see some increased shower and thunderstorm chances, and it'll eventually make its way into northeast North Carolina and all the way to the eastern shore a little bit later on the day. So we'll have to time this out, and we'll see how much actual shower and thunderstorm activity this has with it, but we'll just have to watch out for this maybe Sunday afternoon and maybe more like Sunday evening, depending on the timing here. And then by Monday of next week, that front's way offshore. It's blasted offshore and cooler high pressure building in from the west. So that's kind of what's going on this week with the weather pattern. This is our increased fire danger for today. So it's only in a few counties in North Carolina. North Carolina has instituted a burn ban. We already have the burn ban, the seasonal burn ban in effect for Virginia. North Carolina just instituted a burn ban for them. They're seeing an increase in fires across the state. A lot of dry conditions, even though we had some rain last week. It's a little bit of rain. Some areas in North Carolina got a half inch, but some places only got maybe about a quarter of an inch or less. And they are seeing an increase in fires. And with this warm weather and the breezy conditions, the fuels dry out pretty quick. And so because of that, we do have that increased fire danger here, just for the few counties that we serve in North Carolina, but it does really cover all of central North Carolina and all the way back to the mountains. And really, it's just for a little bit drier conditions, a little bit breezy conditions there. And so the Forest Service there has been coordinating that with us. The humidity does increase the next couple of days. So I don't know if this increased fire danger will continue. We'll just have to see. It does stay a little bit breezy in the afternoons, but the humidity should increase a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Looking at the daily storm threat, really not much expected until about Wednesday. That the front tries to sneak through here, or at least down here late Wednesday evening, Wednesday night. And so with that, we'll have some showers, maybe even a rumble of thunder. We'll see. So you see the outlook there for maybe some general thunderstorms on Wednesday, but that probably wouldn't be until late in the day. I think it's going to be really late afternoon and evening if we do get a rumble of thunder as that front sneaks through. But there's no risk of severe weather at all this week. And even beyond this, there's no risk of severe weather even into the weekend as of right now. So just kind of looking at the timing of that precip, this is some of that stuff today with those little showers, maybe try to make it across. You're seeing Cambridge at about a 20 to 30% chance of rain up there in Maryland. Probably the same thing down here towards Salisbury. They have a little bit of a 10, 15% chance of rain today. That system trying to push through. So very, very, very low chances. Again, folks might see a trace of rain. That's going to be about it. Could see an isolated shower or two even on Tuesday, but we're not really expecting much of anything. But you definitely see after about 3 o'clock or so, those rain chances increase midweek. So 3 o'clock till about, let's say, even about midnight or so. And some of those rain chances, we'll be fine tuning them as it gets closer. They may go up, they may go down a little bit. We'll just have to try to see how that goes. It does look like the best precipitation for, I'd say, the Wednesday event, kind of the area here we have in the darker green right now. That's where it's kind of suggesting that we might see a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch of rainfall. But, once you get south of there, once you get south of Richmond and, over Hampton Roads, it's not looking like this system is going to bring as much precipitation on Wednesday. Well, we'll see if that changes. I will say the model trend has been to decrease the rainfall overall for this Wednesday event. So we've been kind of backing off on the rainfall totals, as we've gotten closer and closer to it. So that trend might continue, and the best chance of rain maybe in the northern part of our forecast area, because that's going to be closer to the front. That front's going to push down here, kind of stall out, overnight, and then kind of be pushed back to the north on Thursday. So that's why you're seeing those better rain chances. I'd say mainly kind of along the north of 64. We have those better rain accumulations. So we'll see how that goes. That's what you see here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, it does suggest that, we could see a little bit better precipitation. This is really geared towards Sunday, late Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, where we could see that stronger front coming through and maybe a little bit more precipitation with it. And so what I'll show you right now is this is the probability of seeing a quarter inch or more of rain. So what's the chance you're going to get a good wetting rain, like what we just had a few days ago, where everything got nice and wet. We saw a good quarter inch or more of rainfall. So we'll kind of step through and see when that better rainfall might actually make it here. And so we'll start here by this afternoon. Obviously, we're not expecting much with these little showers coming through. Definitely not a quarter of an inch. We'll get into the Wednesday event here. So we get into Wednesday evening. And again, you see that best probability for maybe getting that quarter inch of rainfall is really kind of along and north of 64. So maybe up over Maryland, we might be able to get a quarter inch of rainfall there late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. But again, once you get south of 64 and down towards Hampton Roads, south of Richmond, there really is hardly any probability that you're going to have, a quarter inch of rain. So not expecting anywhere near that amount of precipitation. So pretty limited with this system here Wednesday night. And again, this is just a quarter inch of rain. It's not like it's a ton of rainfall. Moving ahead in time, things dry out as we get into Friday, and then we have to wait for that system to come here more for this weekend. So Saturday looks okay. Saturday afternoon looks like we're going to stay, fairly dry. And then you see the probability of a quarter inch of rain really starts to increase, especially once you get, I'd say at late afternoon, by about 8 p.m. in the west of I-95, you're starting to see those probabilities of a quarter inch of rain starting to kind of really increase, getting into that 30 to 40% probability. Even up here over Maryland, starting to see maybe a 30 to 40% chance of getting a quarter inch of rain. But once you get into the overnight, you get into basically Sunday night. That's when the probabilities really increase, really jump up. Looks like everybody's going to be getting into a quarter inch of rain or more. And so this is getting us into Sunday night and into Monday morning. So it looks like we will hopefully see a good wetting rain, kind of knocking the pollen down and getting things wet again. And then this looks like it's going to pull out as that front pushes offshore, Monday to Tuesday, the chance of rain really does decrease. So that's just kind of showing you the better chances that we might get that wetting rain. So the really good wetting rain probably is not coming for most of us until later on Sunday. A few folks might get a little bit of rain there on Wednesday, especially along and north of 64. But again, that's not a big system. The better system's coming through late this weekend. And this is just kind of breaking down those chances of precipitation, for the whole week. So you can definitely see a little bit of a chance here Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, but it's not like it's real high chances everywhere. And then just maybe a few isolated showers after that, maybe a few isolated showers on Thursday, maybe a few on Friday, but then you see those rain chances increasing, especially as you push through later in the afternoon on Sunday. Stay tuned for the timing on Sunday. Again, it could be a little bit later. It may be more geared towards Sunday night. So those chances of precipitation might push back a little bit later. So we'll see, but it does look like hopefully we'll see at least some rain coming through late Sunday and Sunday night. And again, we've kind of already talked about the temperatures there. I mean, really, really warm this week. I mean, unseasonably warm for the most part. So, today with the cloud cover and stuff, highs maybe, obviously in the mid 70s or so, but we're looking at a lot of temperatures in the 80s and maybe even mid 80s across a lot of the area, especially the area away from the ocean and away from the water, where we're going to see some really, really warm temperatures and even the overnight lows, in the 60s for the most part. So very, very mild air. The combination of the fact that we just had some good rainfall, it's getting warm, it's probably going to mean a lot more pollen. We do expect the pollen to kind of really go crazy here again over the course of the next few days. It's going to be breezy. It's going to be warm. Everything got wet recently, so we'll see how the pollen goes. But this is probably a good recipe for a lot of pollen here over the next few days. You do see Monday here, Monday night, the overnight lows do drop down a little bit. That's that cold front trying to sneak through there Monday night, and it'll be a little bit cooler for the start of next week. And again, looking ahead to next week, well, literally getting out even beyond that, the next 8 to 14 days. On average, we do expect a good signal there that we'll maintain on average these above normal temperatures. So we might cool off for a few days, a day or two, but then we're going to go right back above normal. So that's going to keep things fairly warm. Precipitation wise, it's not a strong signal that we're going to see above normal precipitation. So it's probably more like near normal chances of precipitation. We'll see if we actually get above normal. That might be a stretch, but I would say maybe near normal precipitation over the 8 to 14 day period. So nothing too dramatic, but definitely looks like we're going to stay warm here. And spring is probably here for to kind of taking hold. We have started our freeze program, kind of a heads up. So starting April 1st, if we do get frost conditions or we do get below freezing, we will issue freeze warnings. Since on April 1st we start our growing season program. We're not anticipating any temperatures below freezing. We're not anticipating that, but if there was, we would actually start issuing frost advisories and freeze warnings if we do see temperatures getting that cold after April 1st. So shifting gears onto the marine side, with that southwest wind, it is a little bit breezy. You see the orange area here kind of lighting up in the rivers and on the Chesapeake Bay and even a little bit over the coastal waters. So especially near shore, you get that wind coming off the land. Is that warm wind, and so especially within, I'd say, about 2 to 5 miles of shore, it's pretty gusty as those winds kind of blow out over the bay. But then as they go out over the bay, basically the water's cold, and that cold air actually stabilizes the atmosphere, and so sometimes the wind doesn't make it all the way across the bay. But it is going to be gusty. It's going to be a little bit breezy. Today, you see a lot of stuff in the orange here again on Tuesday, and then again on Wednesday. So that's all southwest wind, being a little bit gusty, especially in the afternoons, a little bit of wind overnight with that southwest flow, keeping us right in that marginal small craft advisory conditions. The winds do decrease a little bit for Thursday and Friday. Kind of see the not as much orange on the maps here as you get later in the week, so we'll watch out for that. And again, this is just kind of looking at the peak wind gusts. So kind of typical what you're going to see with the southwest warm wind, about maybe some gusts of 20, 25 knots on the bay, and out of the coastal waters, gust anywhere from, I'd say, 20, maybe 30 knots when you get further north, kind of worst case. But for the most part, winds about maybe 15 to 25 knots is kind of what we're looking at. And you kind of see how that just kind of continues on here, just kind of repetitive for several days. Winds increase maybe a little bit here late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening as that front tries to get a little bit closer. But notice how the winds never really shift on the marine side. So the front really never pushes all the way through. It approaches and kind of stalls out and then goes back to the north. Even when you look a little bit further out, kind of look at the sustained winds and the wind gusts here over the marine, you see these wind barbs, all these little arrows stay coming out of the south. You never see the winds shift to the north. And so that front's going to get close to us, but we don't think it's going to push through. It's going to kind of stall out and then go back to the north. So that's why we're not expecting that front to come through. But again, it does get a little bit breezier here tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, maybe getting about just as gusts up to maybe 25 knots or so, maybe even some gusts close to 30 as that front tries to approach us a little bit there. And then Wednesday kind of continuing those southwest winds, 15 to 25 knots. And so wave heights going to be pretty consistent out there, running about 3 to 4 feet. As you get further offshore, waves running about 5 feet out there. Bay is going to be running about, I'd say 2 to 3 feet, depending on where you are. Well, I'd say 1 to 3 feet, depending on where you are. Some places that more protected, obviously the waves will be a little bit less. But if you get a couple miles out of the James River, get out in parts of the lower bay, I would expect to see 2, maybe even 3 foot waves out there with some of the gusty southwest winds for the next couple of days. And that's all we have for today. We'll be updating this briefing. Obviously, it goes online every day. So you check out our briefing online every day. We update this every day and post it to our website. So you can always check that out. The next email briefing will come out actually on Thursday at 9 a.m. unless something else pops up, but we don't anticipate anything. So our next full email briefing and live briefing will come out Thursday.